Hello and welcome to Talk Maldives with me, Fatma Sara. On this episode of the show, we are bringing you the details of a local NGO's work in the island of Kela, Island Development and Environmental Awareness Society Ideas. Joining us to give the details of their work is Fatma Hulwa Halil. Thank you so much for joining us. To begin with, let's talk about how Island Development Environmental Awareness Society Ideas was formed.
So, as you mentioned, our NGO is called IDEAS, conveniently short for an Island Development and Environmental Awareness Society. So it's an NGO that's based in Kela, in Ha Alif Kela, but we also operate in Male, and we are expanding our kind of scope throughout the Maldives as well. So we were officially founded in 2002. However, we were active as a group of individuals way before that, but it originally came about because there were a group of like-minded people on the island in Kela who wanted to do some good to the community, who wanted to create a space like a park for the community to come together and enjoy, and it came about from that. And then many years later, in 2002, we were founded, and now we have expanded. Active membership per year probably includes about 80 active members, but we believe that every person in the community in Kela is a part of IDEAS. It's a family, it's a community-led NGO, and there is no discrimination between people who are officially members or not. Everyone comes together for our events. So that's how we formed.
Well, that's very good, since development and environment is a part of everybody's life. Let's talk about the major work targets of IDEAS. It is obviously one of the NGOs which works towards developmental and environmental awareness issues. So what is your main target and scope in Kela and elsewhere?
So since 2002, we began mostly doing work in Kela with youth empowerment, women empowerment, and island development. Also, we usually get very active around any environmental activities, including coastal cleanups or like whether it's planting trees. So we began with community-led events in Kela, and then we've also moved out to sort of working with international NGOs, both in Kela and also in other atolls of the Maldives. We are moving towards more of a research-based NGO as well, where we work for different layers of the community. So we also target kids, we target youth, we target the elderly, because we believe that island development and environmental awareness is something that concerns every person. So that's kind of the work we do.
Well, IDEAS, what are the, in relation to developmental issues of an island, what is the work that IDEAS does in Kela in this scope?
So most of the time what we do is we try to collaborate with other agencies and NGOs to bring services to the community. Things that we've done in the past include educational workshops for different crafts or different cultural activities. At the same time, things, like an eye clinic, like having like a small health camp for the residents of the island. So it started off as things like this, but then we're moving into more of trying to understand the island as a whole, thinking about what are major developmental needs of the island, especially in terms of generating income and employment to the island. What are ways in which we can help towards boosting local economy, towards boosting local tourism, whether it's the first thing that we did that we noticed was that there isn't enough written about specifically about Halif Kela. We don't get obviously we don't get as many tourists as maybe a central atoll would that's closer to Male, but we're working on changing that narrative, and we want to have not only international people know about Kela, but also Maldivians, like what what are the things that are unique about us and how fun an Eid event could be at Kela, like why Maldivians should also come and come and see the beauty of our mangroves or our lagoon and things like this. So to attract more people to generate income, what is a way in which a local NGO can help an island? And one of the ways we're doing that is through talking about Kela, writing about Kela, putting it out there on social media, and talking about how the community itself is working towards its development. Not, so to not portray us as, isolated up in the north, but not as victims, but as people who are doing our own work, who are innovative in their own right. So bringing us into focus and us into the conversation with major stakeholders, I think that's one of our main goals.
Well, the other part, environmental awareness. Obviously, you will not be specifically targeting only Kela when it comes to environmental awareness. I've kind of gone through the social media pages of ideas, which shows that you do it in a bigger scope. How does the environmental awareness programs that you conduct, is it in only Kela, or you go to other islands and involve others? Obviously, you work with NGOs of Kela and other organizations in Kela.
So our environmental projects do span a couple of different islands. Currently, we have two major projects that we're currently doing. One is in Kela, for which we're working with the Olive Ridley Project, which is also an international NGO that is concerned with Olive Ridley turtles. So what they're kind of trying to do is to bring awareness to ghost nets, which are fishing nets, sometimes that are lost during fishing or discarded once they're worn. And these fishing nets and ghost gear, I guess, have a really terrible ability to float for massive distances for a very long time unless somebody actually transfers it out of the ocean. So, and you'd think that, out of sight, out of mind, like, how many ghost gear nets do we really see, or how does it really affect turtles? Like, does it really? And I think that even in the most remote regions in the country, we're seeing wash up of plastic, wash up of ghost gear, and general debris. So even in Kela, we have seen massive ghost gear nets that have entangled turtles, have had to cause amputation of their limbs or whatnot. So we've been working with Olive Ridley Project, first of all, to raise awareness within the North about these issues, about how to remove ghost gear properly, how to, and also the life cycle of turtles and why they get entangled, and also what they do is they actually have a vet based in Ba Atoll, where it's kind of like a turtle hospital where you can send things to. So they're one of our partners with whom we are running a sea turtle expedition to Kela. So we have volunteers from, international volunteers come in for about 2 weeks who stay based in Kela and do turtle surveying and research. So a lot of the North has not been researched as extensively as atolls with a lot of resorts and marine biologists stationed in these resorts. So the cool thing about our expedition to the North is that we are able to identify new turtles every time. Every time there is a turtle survey done up in the North, there is a new turtle to be seen and to be identified and added to the database. And it's not just turtles, like it's the same for example, mantas or anything, honestly, like, because we need to do more research up in the North. It's not that it's any less. It's just that we haven't explored enough. So Olive Ridley Project is one of our partners for that. One more thing that we're just doing in general every day is the collection of plastic with Parley. So Parley is one of the organizations, again international, that's operating in the Maldives as well, where they collect bottles and then they send them off to be redesigned into jerseys and sneakers and whatnot. So one of our own members of the society, Kela boat owner. He's responsible for helping us bring in the jumbo bags from Kela to Male every time these bags are full. So like I said, everything is a community effort truly in Kela. So those are the two major projects that are ongoing currently in Kela. And then the other project that we're working on is with Mangroves for the Future, which is implemented by the UNDP office in the Maldives. So with MFF and UNDP, we are working on a mangroves assessment in Gavtal, Hordeddu, and Nadella. So Ideas is responsible for implementing the project, and we came up with ways to work with local NGOs based in Gavtal, Nadella, and Hordeddu. So the NGOs that we're currently working with are HIDS and NIDS, which is Hordeddu Island Development Society, and NIDS, the Nadella Island Development Society. So what we've been doing with them is, well, firstly, what we've done is a mapping of the mangroves and a biodiversity surveying of the mangrove area, and where if there's a lack of mangroves, we've done a mapping and biodiversity surveying of a lake area. So through this, we were able to create a geographic a map of the spots in the lake or in the mangrove that have certain species of mangroves, or what kind of birds do we see there, what kind of fish do we see there. So it's an interactive map that we've created that actually has the option to add on a survey. So we're trying to promote citizen science by having citizens survey their areas that they live in. So you're able to input your survey online into the GIS map, and so over time we'll be able to gather data on the state of the mangrove in this island. So in addition to that, we've also created a toolkit, a mangrove toolkit, which will help the citizens and the school students identify exactly what they're looking for. Like, what do we mean by a mangrove survey? What do we mean by the health of a mangrove? How do you identify the different species of a mangrove, and so on and so forth? So the toolkit is designed to go with the map so that you can add on to the map. And probably one of the more exciting aspects of this project is the work that we're doing really closely with HIDS and NIDS. We're working with them to build platforms in their islands as viewing platforms on the lakes. So the reason why we think that this is something that can go towards conservation of an island's resources is because a lot of the time mangrove areas or lake areas are seen as kind of dumping sites for waste, or mosquito breeding sites, or it's seen as something that's not necessarily important to the environmental or biodiversity functioning of an ecosystem functioning of an island. So in a sense, some people don't even actually visit these areas. So what we wanted to do was create a space that people wanted to go to. So if there is a beautiful viewing platform, if it is accessible, more and more people are more exposed to the area, and then through that they will be able to ask questions and truly appreciate what it is that we want to conserve and what we want people to understand about the ecosystem around them. And obviously through signboards and information given out by these local NGOs, that's how we plan to target the populations. And so far it's proven really successful, that the map is up and running, and we're ready to go ahead with the toolkit. And and we've received immense support from UNDP and to implement this project as well. So those are the major projects that are currently in place for us. Yes.
You work a lot with the local community. Mm-hmm. So how is the response, especially the environmental awareness aspect? You mentioned that some people don't even visit in Nadella and Hordeddu. They don't really visit these environmental biodiversity sites. How is the response when it comes to awareness? Do you see a difference within these years you've worked with the ideas? is there, are people more aware of these things, interested in these issues, which is very important? You mentioned plastic pollution, which is also a huge issue, and this year's theme as well, beating plastic pollution. How aware are people towards this? Because we can put place, policies, implement a lot of things, but these issues will not be solved if people are not aware. How do you see the awareness among the community?
I think that awareness needs to come with alternatives. We can make people aware as much as we want to, but as long as there are no alternatives for them to turn to, it's not going to be effective. There has been a rise in the conversation surrounding plastics, even in schools, in communities, with NGOs that are vocal about it, and even at different levels of society, we've been talking about plastic, and globally, it's a trend. With documentaries being out, that people, like, it's taking the globe by storm, I would say. So, for example, like, there are countries that are actually banning plastics completely, single-use plastics, and many countries are moving towards that step. And I think that comes out of a global awareness as well. And I think in the Maldives, people do know, but like, it's hard to not be part of this conversation at this point. But at the same time, we are so used to doing what we do. For example, in the past, for waste management, what we would do is we would just, it's not that far of a past, but we would just dump everything in the lagoon area or in the ocean, and in the past, our waste only consisted of mostly biodegradables, so it wasn't as apparent a problem. And but then as we move on, now we're in this age of convenience where plastics have taken over, and it's become easy to use them. It's easier to use and throw out, and the throwing out still happening in the past. The way we get rid of it is like, just throw it out in the ocean. It just sucks everything in and it holds everything, and it's kind of a place where we put all of the things away and we don't see them anymore. But increasingly we are seeing them, and I think that people do see wash-ups of plastic on the beach. People do see a lot of things are washing up and creating environmental issues, and not only washing up, but also it's actually affecting the marine life, like with our tuna eating plastics. We are actually the ones at the end of the food chain for the tuna, so we're actually eating plastics in turn. So I do think that there is still probably a ways to go in terms of awareness of disposal, or awareness of refusing, or awareness of alternatives. I don't think anyone would say plastic is particularly good for the environment, but I think that people need to know what their alternatives are, and for that we do need to also provide alternatives.
You mentioned the Pali project you were conducting with Pali. How is it ongoing? And is it only in Kela? Do you plan to expand it to other islands?
So we're just partnering with Parley on the project. So Parley itself is doing a lot of collection across the country. So they have collection points in different islands. In Kela, it's going quite smoothly because one of the major things to consider with this project is about how to move the plastic, how to move the jumbos. And so in Kela, because of the boat owner who helps us transport it, it's going quite smoothly. So we're able to collect and actually deliver it to Pales who can actually use it.
Let's talk about the Olive Ridley project a little bit more. You mentioned that researches and surveys are done in collaboration with the local NGOs, along with yourself and international organizations. How do you use the research that you find about the newly found species of not only turtles, but manta rays and other species in the ocean?
So with every international NGO that we work with, they have their own reporting procedures, and they do report both on social media and on their websites about how many turtles were found, or and what this means, the impact, and all of the turtles that we find are they put it into the turtle database themselves as well. But what we do as an NGO, as Ideas, is not just with environmental issues or environmental surveying. We write a lot about culture, history, and environment, and how all of this intersect, because the environment doesn't exist in its own bubble. It affects people. What we've done in the past affects how we live today. So we maintain a website on which we have we write articles about the different places that we've been to. So any member of Ideas, whenever we travel to another island, it doesn't have to be Kela, it doesn't have to be partner islands for the projects. Whenever we travel, whether it's for our daytime work or for whatever, for leisure, anything, if we do end up on a different island, we try to do a quick assessment of like what's there, and really talk to the locals about their current situation, what they do in the island, and how they deal with their what they think are the issues and how they deal with them, and what do they think is beautiful about the island, and what do we think should we highlight to the rest of the country. So that's kind of where we're trying to gather a database of insight into different islands. So every time we go, again, like I said, to a different island, we try to write about it and publish it. Whether it doesn't matter like how small what we find is, we try to put it out there so that over time we can add to it if the need be. So one thing that we talked about awareness, but one thing that we think we should do, like our role as an NGO, is to make people to have people understand what it is they're protecting, instead of telling them to stop using plastic, like, oh, you're littering, or stop hunting turtles, even though maybe they've been doing it all their lives, or stop doing a whole bunch of stuff. If you're telling individual people to stop doing certain things, then we need to show them why they should, instead of just going on and with all of the knowledge we have about the environment, expect them to catch up in the second that we tell them to do something. So instead of that, what we really want to do is do surveys, actually write about what is there, what is happening in that snapshot of time on that island, in the environment, or in the cultural aspects, so that we can use that vocabulary when we need to explain to them why we're saying something, or why they, and kind of give them vocabulary to use when they need to say something. For example, when developments come to islands, like structural developments or things like that, when when there's a certain area of an island picked for a structural development, a lot of the time the community may know a lot about what's important in that area, or actually they may not. There are many people who benefit from the area, who know maybe it's beautiful, but who don't know the value of the ecosystem. So what we try to do is try to fill that gap, and we're quite new to it. There are many people who are already doing this work, but we want to contribute to the pool of knowledge and fill in gaps as much as possible, because we think that's something that's really missing in the Maldives, like written accounts of what is happening in islands, what should be protected, and really giving people the vocabulary to use when they want to protect something in their islands.
Thank you so much, Shulva, for joining us and sharing with us the work that is done by Ideas in Kela and elsewhere. Well, that's it for Talk Maldives for this week. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Studying in MMI has made my fieldwork a lot easier since the institute has the best facilities and provides first-hand experiences of fieldwork. For anyone who wants to pursue a career in journalism or anchoring, joining MMI would give you a boost for your future in media career.